All right, guys, here we're going to talk about Season 5, Episode 33 of The Twilight Zone. So this episode is timely, and
I was going to say,
like, it fits in with today as well as it did then, I imagine.
It's as if it was ripped from the headlines.
Yeah.
It's about automation. It's about
indeed.
robots taking our jobs.
Yeah, Robbie taking our jobs.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Uncle Simon taking our jobs. That's the perfect. I don't know if that's exactly the same robot. It's
It
kind
is
of off
exactly
topic,
the same robot.
because they only had that one robot which they're borrowing.
They borrowed that robot.
So Uncle Simon later goes on to become the CEO.
He's in
of
another
Whipple
episode of Twilight
Enterprises.
Zone too. He's in 2 episodes, I think, of Twilight Zone so far, and he's Robbie the robot.
Is it like tracking where he's like a scrappy young robot, then he's like a rich robot, now he's a CEO?
Well,
like William Randolph
I guess.
Hurst. Yeah. So Twilight Zone in general, all 5 seasons are just the slow tale of Simon.
Yeah,
the robot.
Well, it's something we had mentioned earlier on, how there was that continuation of the puppet episode.
Oh, man.
So now we're realizing we forgot all the Robbie.
That would be great.
Yeah, he just keeps going right
if it was
along.
real.
Uncle Simon, that son of a bitch. Well, he loves getting rid of jobs.
Thing. Yeah.
But this episode's, it's not bad.
You okay? Yeah.
There's one moment, though, that I was like, what the fuck just happened? And I'm sure you saw this, too.
Well, they cut something out.
Yes.
Or they cut to say, we don't have that, and then they just use dialogue.
Yeah, so the guy, I was like, did he shoot him? Like, what happened just there? There's a part where the job foreman is drunk, and he's, gonna wreck the joint, and he's mouthing off at the boss. The boss comes out, and then, it cuts on that guy's face during his monologue, and it just picks up the next day. He's in the hospital. That's not my doing. He did that to himself. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what was supposed to happen there? And I tried to Google and find out.
Oh.
And no one even makes reference like there's anything weird about that. I'm like, it's very weird.
No, it briefly cuts back to the whatever his name is, his face
for 1 second,
and then it very short period of time, and then goes black, and you're like, what? There's no audio, just play play a gunshot and go black.
Something.
So I know it's happening, but that doesn't happen.
And they make no reference to it, in terms of what exactly. I was like, oh, is it gonna wait till the very end? You're gonna realize what he did?
Oh, were you like,
no?
That must be a thing.
Because I didn't remember this episode, so I was like, all right, was this a better twist than I could possibly? No, it's not.
The most hidden of twists.
Yeah.
It's still waiting to spring the trap all this time later.
3 episodes later.
50 years later, it's still waiting.
Very strange, because they've not had anything like that I've noticed before, where I'm clearly missing something, or cut something out, or was too dramatic for TV. You couldn't have a man shoot a man.
That's interesting. Maybe
I don't know.
It was cut out. Because it feels very awkward. It feels like, and sometimes stuff feels cheap, or like they're cutting a corner, or they're doing something on purpose, but it's not usually that.
It's not jarring. It's not like, we cut the commercial real quick and ignore what just happened.
Yeah.
I thought it would be like, when I Googled it, oh yes, it was because something blah, 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 or this happened, or the controversially we had to take this out. There was a fire and they lost a foot, something, anything, but no one seemed to notice.
I like your plan of it being cut or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, we can't show the head of a labor organization being murdered by a billionaire. Because that just happened yesterday in real life.
It's very strange, because even if it was a cut by choice, like even if you had to remove things, you could have removed more.
You could have.
Why show a single frame of his head before it goes back? That's why I'm like, was there an error? And then it's like, this is all we have. This is the most complete to date version of the Twilight Zone episode, 33 season 5. We have to put it out in its entirety.
Sometimes it feels like they had to make something work, or fake it, or put it together. This feels like they had to, but they kind of didn't. They just put it in. Yeah.
Sure.
But overall, we like this episode. I enjoy this episode.
I like the episode. The monologues make sense. I don't understand what their company was exactly and what those robots could possibly be doing.
That's a metaphor or something.
It also appeared later on. I'm like, is he designing robots? Because he's has paper and pens.
This one shall replace you.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Because if he's not designing them, he's buying them from somebody, and it wouldn't just be his company. It would be every company would be doing this. So that's a little strange. But overall,
I expected some of those technicians to be more involved, or to have something special, as a star, technician. I also, before I forget, I wanted the ending twist thing to be that the board of directors are all machines.
Sure.
And, that's really where it started, or something.
That would have been better.
But it just he just goes I'm upset now too, and then it ends, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then Ron Serling's like, if you're a multi-billionaire and you're running a company, be careful. You might be clever when you should be wise. And then it ends, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
People are, would already hate losing their jobs for any reason.
Sure.
And there's nothing like special about this except that like automation is like a real thing or whatever.
I
Right?
thought there were some number issues where in the opening like little thing, it's like a video.
This promo thing,
he was like, we employ 238,000 people, blah,
so
blah,
many
this and that,
numbers.
something.
Yeah.
And this robot can cut 61,000 jobs.
Yeah.
And then later on, he says something like, this robot is equal to like 16 people or like some other number. And I was like, wait a minute.
Well, he has more than one robot. They're just not showing those.
No, but in the first part, it was like this robot can, and it eliminated, and maybe he meant this robot in general, but it does eliminate 100% of the jobs. So it's not that it eliminates.
Yeah, no, it's like the invention of this robot or something like that. But I expected like it really doesn't delve into a lot of like because like they like throw in little comments like, we're going to have a ton of products that no one can afford to buy because they're putting in a lot of work, or all that stuff with UBI, like you're talking about, modern things that are happening or whatever. It's very interesting. But it's very like lightly hinted at, and that's not really like the point of it or whatever.
Well, what's crazy is that like when this came out, this was like, oh, pipe dream, this could, and now it's like, that's like everywhere.
Well, but automation has lost people jobs.
Oh, no, yes.
Forever.
No, but what I mean is now
like
there are whole factories that are just robots.
Yeah.
When this was them saying like, well, okay, like, and always have we had inventions take away jobs.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many factories have had 100% closed at that point.
There's like a tipping point or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I kind of went back and forth on it because part of me was like, oh, it's so prescient and like it hints at like the real future. But part of me was like, yeah, we've been afraid of this forever. Like, and then those people find other jobs or whatever, right? Like you invent something that makes a job obsolete and that happens all the time. That's been happening for like 1,000 years.
Yeah, but the difference is, as everything's been going, we've always been making jobs obsolete. That is true. But we haven't stopped breeding. So like we're more people than we ever were with less jobs than we ever had. It's a very strange
eventually so
cruel
like
mistress.
You have this happening and then like a big cloud and then Star Trek. Where like there's no money, you just work if you feel like it, everything's cool, and the part in the middle is we're just entering into this like, I don't know, it's question marks, and then it's like somehow we end up in a Star Trek utopia.
I feel like the Star Trek utopia works because it's like, oh, do you want to not die of starvation? Here, have a job, we give you food. All right, can I buy a little something? That's nothing, you get nothing.
Yeah.
You just get to live.
I don't know. I don't know how like the Federation works or if it's for everybody. I'm not actually that deep into like the Star Trek lore, but I always liked the whole.
I don't know if they've ever gone over payroll.
There's an awesome episode where they like thaw people out and they're like, what about all of my billions? And then Captain Picard is like, we don't have money anymore, you asshole. Like we stopped doing all that. We just live for like good things or whatever. And I'm like, damn, awesome. But yeah, I don't know how we get from here.
Once a holodeck exists, you really don't have any reason to work ever again.
Well, they must
have
restructured their whole economy in some way at some point.
Yeah, epic war.
It's
coming, 2020.
Performances are good. It's clunky.
Yeah,
that's like a function of its timeline or whatever, right? But I still think this is like a good one.
Yeah, I would say this could be a classic, especially because of how it will always be relevant.
Right, and it's got, I wish it went a little deeper or something. And I totally, like literally the second time he's like spinning his stupid pocket watch, I was like, this is gonna end with robots spinning the pocket watch. But I never predicted it would be like Robbie the robot.
It didn't even appear to be a pocket watch to me. It looked like it was just a keychain or some
weird
bullshit
prop that
like a letter M or something.
Some like mannerism to be like, you too shall be replaced or whatever, right? But like that's when he finally gets pissed, is that, they finally came from me. It isn't like he sees the impact or that there's a reason.
No, there was no lesson learned.
And there's no like answer to the question of like, how do you actually do this?
And he was a whiny bitch too. He's like, they took my job now.
Right.
And the only reason they took his job is because he had a mental breakdown.
Right.
Like he was doing his job fine.
Which is like mixing in the different like, oh, the human contact, it's lonely here or something like that. And he's like, well, you get out too, and all that stuff. It's like mixing up its different like lessons and then doesn't really like pay them off satisfyingly.
I did like that, like, lunchroom, empty. Parking lot, empty.
What did they do when they like did like the switch, which was like a sound that they played?
He would turn the switch on.
Oh, he would go,
the machine would go.
It would go, boom, like change. Yeah, exactly. With every flip of your confounded switch, you empty out this place or whatever. Yeah.
I like the idea of that though. This warehouse that is all automated and it still has this old parking lot that's gigantic because it used to have thousands of employees.
It gets like overgrown and all that stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
That's like the darkest part of the whole thing, is that it is better. He says like they don't need to go on like sick days. They don't need the lunchroom. They don't need this.
Work 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, right? There's no shifts. There's no confounded wage disputes. It's all just like
they work for 2 cents an hour in power or something.
Yeah. He like frames it up like that's the power, like wattage or something, and instead of like healthcare benefits and like maternity leave or some weird, like throws in all these things, and you're like, damn.
I do think it was a little presumptuous. He's like 6 months. We'll be doing this. Hopefully 4. Give them all 4 months notice.
Right.
I'm like, okay. Maybe wait till like it's all done and give them 2 weeks notice.
Well, and like the real thing that happens is that like one department gets it, and it slowly happens, and it becomes more like normal, and slowly, and then like they build a new factory that like 8 people work at somehow, and you're like, that's weird. And they're like, you're fine. Like, okay. And then eventually just people, right? So like that's what makes it so much more dramatic. And that's
because the problem, you give someone 4 months notice, they're gonna find a job and leave.
Well, and like that's what makes that guy come back drunk and want to like raise hell. Is it's been like decreed, but in real life, it like worms its way in like slowly or whatever. Yeah. So that doesn't happen. Everyone just goes, I'm dead. No. And that's fine.
No, like once you're fired, you're like generally not there at all. And even if you're quitting, you're like, I'll give my 2 weeks. You can stop now. Here you go.
And like, you'll have 2 weeks pay in the mail, and you're like, okay. Yeah.
No, you're just gone. Goodbye.
Just go. The robot will kill you on the way out. I mean, help you on the way out. What? Nothing.
Yeah. But decent episode.
No, good performances, solid thing. Obviously, something to talk about, right?
Sure.
Which is unusual. Sometimes it's like
I haven't had a good jump-off point in a while.
Like we say the ones, it's Khrushchev, and you're like, all right, I fucking like watch the History Channel and figure out why this was like important or whatever. But this is just like a normal, solid thing.
You just get.
And it's not goofy enough that it takes away from like the stuff. So
no, could be a little goofier for fun.
Yeah.
Really, if
anything,
just,
it's kind of dry, right?
Yeah, if it didn't drop that one shot and just like pick up abruptly, it would have a little bit more points for me. But having like an error on it, I was like, you have an incomplete, sir. You can't get an A with an incomplete.
You're disqualified.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like even for you, it like stuck in your head, like waiting for that to matter.
Yeah, I was like, what is that? Because it was so impactful because it was so odd, and then to not ever play back into it, I'm like, oh, it was just a mistake. Idiots.
I was just like, that was a mistake, so it didn't bother me as much. But yes, it's kind of a weird mark against something where I'm like, yeah, this has a spot somewhere on the.
I like rewound. I was like, was there an issue with this? Like,
did
it skip? Did I have a stroke? What?
Did I fall asleep small time? What? Stroke?
Fuck that part. All right, guys, that's our thoughts on this episode. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, internets. I just love watching JustDaggers. If you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, click that subscribe button. Peace out, homies.